At dinner, my dad declared, "Your brother built his success alone. No handouts." Everyone applauded. I calmly replied, "Then he'll be fine without the $6,000 I transfer toward his tuition every semester." The golden child nearly dropped his glass. And then I knew dinner would be a circus the moment my mom sent out the group text, "Family dinner next Saturday." Full attendance, no excuses. I could already hear her voice in my head, chirpy, passive-aggressive, pretending like everything in this family wasn't held together with duct tape and denial. I showed up on time, like I always do. Brought a nice bottle of red wine. Sat down quietly, helped set the table. My brother Jason showed up late, of course. Hoodie that probably cost more than my laptop, phone in his hand, no eye contact with anyone. Not even a bottle of soda. Classic. We all sat down, me, my parents, and Cheryl, Uncle Mike, and the main character. As always, Jason. The golden boy. Mom beamed at him like he'd just returned from war. My dad, after about 15 minutes of awkward small talk and chewing, stood up and raised his glass. "To Jason," he said, "who showed us all what determination looks like. Who worked hard, stayed focused, and got where he is today with no handouts. That's how success is built." Everyone clinked glasses. Even Aunt Cheryl, who hasn't had a drink since 1998, took a sip like it was communion. Jason smirked. That smug little grin that made me want to break my wine glass in my hand. The worst part? He believed it. He really did. I didn't toast. I just stared at him. And maybe if the lie hadn't been so loud, maybe if I hadn't spent the last 3 years cleaning up after his choices, I wouldn't have said anything. But I did. I said, "Then he'll be fine without the $6,000 I transfer toward his tuition every semester." Silence. Jason froze. Glass halfway to his mouth. My mom looked like she'd swallowed a nail. My dad blinked a few times like he was trying to calculate what I just said. I didn't stop there. "And the car insurance I've been paying since sophomore year," I added. "And the MacBook I bought him last spring when his crashed. And the rent for his off-campus apartment, which is still getting auto-paid out of my account." I took a sip of wine. "No handouts, right?" I said. "Guess he won't need those anymore." Jason put down his glass. Slowly. Like he thought sudden movement might make me say more. My mom started to speak, but I cut her off. "He's a grown man. If he's so self-made, it's time he starts acting like it. I'm just aligning my actions with Dad's beliefs." No one spoke. No one touched their food. For the first time in years, Jason looked unsure of himself. Not angry. Not offended. Just lost. I didn't say another word that night. Just ate in silence while everyone else picked up their plates. No one asked about my job. No one mentioned the house I just bought. Or the team I'd just been promoted to lead. Nothing. After dessert, I grabbed my jacket, thanked my mom for dinner, and left. When I got home, I logged into my bank account and stopped the automatic tuition transfer. Deleted the scheduled rent payments. Removed his name from the insurance policy. No angry texts came that night. None the next day either. But I knew they would. Eventually. Jason wasn't self-made. He was me-made. And now he was going to find out what life really looked like when I stepped out of the picture. And this was only the beginning. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for everything to start cracking. After that dinner, it was radio silence from everyone. Not a single text from Jason. Not even one of my mom's passive "Hope you're well" messages. And my dad? Forget it. He probably thought I owed them an apology for embarrassing their prodigy at the dinner table. I wasn't surprised. My usefulness had an expiration date, and I'd finally stamped it. At first, I enjoyed the quiet. I went to work, I hit the gym, I took a weekend trip to Seattle without telling anyone. For once, I wasn't checking my bank account for charges I didn't make. No last-minute Venmo requests. No guilt-tripping phone calls. It felt like coming up for air after holding your breath for years. Then the cracks started showing. The first came in the form of an email from the university. Subject line, urgent, unpaid tuition notice. I opened it out of curiosity. Jason's student portal had been flagged. Payment overdue. Balance due immediately to avoid removal from classes. I closed the email without a second thought. I'd been keeping him afloat for 3 years, rent, tuition, car insurance, 2 phones, and a laptop. I hadn't just helped him. I'd enabled him. And I was done. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Jason. Can we talk?" That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. No explanation. Just a half-hearted attempt to see if I'd crack. I didn't respond. The week after that, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. She sounded overly chipper, the way she always did when she was trying to tiptoe around something uncomfortable. "Hey, sweetheart. Just thinking maybe we could all catch up this week. Jason's having a little hiccup with some school payments. I think he just needs someone to talk to. You know how he looks up to you." "Right. Looks up to me when his bills are due. Looks past me the rest of the time," I replied with one sentence. Not my responsibility anymore. A day later, my dad tried calling. I let it ring out. Then the next morning, he tried again. This time I answered. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I wanted to hear how far they were willing to bend before admitting the truth. He didn't waste time. "Your brother's in a tough spot. His classes are at risk. You have the means to help, and you're just watching it happen?" "No," I said. "I helped him graduate high school. I helped him get into college. I helped him stay in college. I bought his car, paid his rent, his tuition. I did more than either of you did. And I didn't get applause at dinner for it." He got quiet. "He's family," he said finally. "So am I. And I'm tired of being treated like a backup parent with a credit card." He muttered something about disrespect and hung up. I didn't call back. I figured that would be the end of it for a while. But less than a week later, I was watching TV when I heard a knock at my door. Checked the peephole. Jason. No car in the driveway, which meant he'd probably taken the bus. Or walked. I stood there watching. He knocked again. Waited. Looked down at his phone, then back at the door. He didn't look angry. He looked empty. Like someone who'd finally realized the safety net had disappeared. I didn't open the door. I didn't owe him that. After a minute, he turned and left. I watched him walk down the hall, hoodie up, head down. 2 weeks after that, I got the notification I'd been expecting. Jason had officially withdrawn from the university. Couldn't pay his tuition. Couldn't stay in his apartment. He pawned the laptop I gave him, sold off some sneakers, and finally did what everyone was hoping wouldn't happen. He moved back in with our parents. And that, apparently, was the tipping point. Because once he was back under their roof, the illusion they'd clung to started cracking. The star student. The self-made man. The golden child. The one who'd never need help. He wasn't any of those things without me. And they were about to see exactly who they'd been applauding all along. It didn't take long. Less than a week after Jason moved back in, the updates started coming, not from him, of course, but through scattered, desperate attempts at conversation from my mom. It started with innocent texts. "Just checking in. How are things? How's work? Jason's adjusting. He's thinking of maybe taking a semester off to regroup." Regroup. That was their new word for dropped out, broke, and flailing. I ignored every message. Not out of spite, but because I knew exactly what they were doing. Trying to soften the ground, warm me up, maybe guilt me into swooping back in with another financial lifeline. But this time, the door was closed, locked, and sealed. Still, I heard things. Through extended family, mostly. Aunt Cheryl called me one night out of the blue, said she was worried about my parents. Apparently Jason had started sleeping till noon again. Said he was job searching, but mostly sat around playing video games in the basement. The same basement he used to mock me for staying in during my first year out of college while I worked 2 jobs and studied at night to land my current position. The irony wasn't lost on me. At some point, Jason started telling people he was taking a break for mental health. My parents backed it up, told anyone who asked that he was reevaluating his priorities. The spin was impressive. But the cracks were widening. Then came the call from my dad. I hadn't spoken to him since he hung up on me. This time, he opened with an apology. Not a real one, more like a frustrated sigh that sounded like, "I don't want to be doing this, but your mother made me." He said things weren't going well. Jason had maxed out his last credit card. My dad had taken over the payments but was already behind. Jason had applied to a few places, but hadn't landed anything. And now he was starting to get moody. I stayed quiet. Then came the ask, not directly, of course. My dad danced around it. Said they were under a lot of pressure. Bills piling up. Groceries more expensive than ever. Jason needing a little boost to get back on his feet. I asked, is he still using the laptop I bought him? Silence. No, my dad said. He sold it. For rent, I think. No, I corrected. He sold it to avoid having to get a job. He didn't respond. That's when I said it clearly, without raising my voice. I'm not helping anymore. Not with him. Not with you. I covered for years. I gave, and all I got in return was disrespect and erasure. You all treated him like a king and me like the accountant. What are we supposed to do? He asked. I gave him the answer he wasn't ready for. Start seeing him for who he is. Not who you wanted him to be. A week later, Jason applied for a job at a local pizza place. Didn't get it. No experience, apparently. He started blaming the economy, the system, and even me, said I. Abandoned him when he needed me most. My mom texted me that. I didn't reply. Another week passed. Then two. Jason started snapping at them. Yelling. Picking fights over Wi-Fi speeds, over rules, over dinner. He wasn't just struggling, he was unraveling. And now they were the ones dealing with the mess I used to quietly absorb. Eventually, the truth started to settle in for them. Their golden child had no savings, no plan, no grit, just a long history of leaning on people who wouldn't call him out. And now that the only person who did call him out had walked away, he didn't know what to do. One night, my mom sent me a long message. A wall of text, full of nostalgia, half-hearted apologies, and emotional pleas. He's not handling things well. Your father and I are exhausted. I don't know what we did wrong. I read it. Then I reread it. And I didn't answer. They were finally getting a taste of what they'd let grow in their house for years. And Jason? Jason was finally on his own. Exactly like they said he always had been. I hadn't spoken to Jason since he showed up at my door and walked away empty-handed. I thought that would be the last time we'd have any real contact. But then Jake, an old coworker of mine who now runs a growing tech firm, called me up asking if I knew anyone looking for an entry-level support role. Nothing fancy. Just a solid, stable job. Decent pay, benefits, growth potential. The kind of position someone could build on if they were willing to put their ego away and work. I almost said no. Almost told Jake I didn't have anyone in mind. But then I paused. Jason had spent months spiraling. He was broke, jobless, and back under the roof of the same parents who used to brag about his independence. Maybe this was the kind of discomfort he needed. Something real. Something earned. So I told Jake. Maybe I do. I didn't call Jason. I called my mom. I have a job offer for him, I said. It's entry-level, support technician at a mid-sized firm. Full-time. On-site. Real work. She sounded surprised. Then relieved. Like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Andrew, thank you. I think this could help him. He's stuck. Yeah. He is. She promised to talk to him right away. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time it was Jason. His tone was already defensive. What is this? It's a job. You're setting me up with some desk monkey thing? You think I need you to save me again? No. I think you need to save yourself. I'm offering you a chance. He started going off, said it was beneath him, that I was trying to make him look small, that I just wanted to feel better about myself. I let him rant. Then I said, if you're too proud to work, then don't call it an opportunity. Call it a mirror. What's that supposed to mean? It means you can keep pretending everyone owes you something, or you can admit no one owes you anything, especially not me. He hung up. I figured that would be the end of it. That he'd go back to sulking in the basement, and telling himself he was too good for the world. But 2 hours later, I got a text from my mom. I told him to take the job. Your father did too. We're done babying him. And just like that, something shifted. For the first time in years, my parents weren't defending him. They weren't making excuses. They were tired. Tired of the freeloading. Tired of the fighting. Tired of pretending he was someone he wasn't. The next day, Jason showed up to the interview. Jake called me afterward. He's raw. A little arrogant. But he's smart. I'll give him a shot. And just like that, Jason had a job. 9 to 5. Tech support. He'd have to wake up early, wear clean clothes, answer to a manager, and do actual work. There'd be no praise for showing up. No applause for doing the bare minimum. And I didn't say a word to him. No congratulations. No. I'm proud of you. Because this wasn't a favor. This wasn't another handout. This was his chance to prove he could stand up on his own, for real this time. But something told me this wasn't the ending. Because someone like Jason doesn't just stumble into responsibility and fall in love with it. He fights it, resents it, treats it like punishment. And I had a feeling his first taste of the real world was going to be a bitter one. The difference now? No one was coming to sweeten it for him. Jason lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of waking up early, commuting downtown, and doing work that actually mattered, work where no one praised him for existing and no one gave a medal for showing up. 6 weeks of being treated like a regular person, not a golden child. 6 weeks of facing a world where entitlement didn't get you anything. Jake texted me around the end of the second week. He's showing up, but barely talks to anyone. Always on his phone. Looks annoyed half the time. Doesn't ask questions. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I already knew what was coming. Jason wasn't built for responsibility. He was built for applause. By the 4th week, Jake stopped texting altogether. Then came week 6. It was a Thursday afternoon when my phone buzzed. Jake again. Andrew, he quit today. Just walked out. Left his badge, said the job was draining and he had better things to do. I stared at my phone for a moment. That was Jason in a nutshell, a man who couldn't endure effort unless it came with instant admiration. The next day, my mom called. Her voice was heavy, exhausted. He quit, she said. I know, I replied calmly. He came home in the middle of the day. No warning, no explanation. Just done. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. Then she said something that made me pause. I think we finally see it. We saw who he could be, not who he is. We kept protecting the version of him we wanted him to be. I stayed quiet. He doesn't understand reality, she continued. He thought the world owed him what he's never earned. That part was true. The fall had been inevitable. But until now, they'd been padding the landing with tuition checks, rent, car insurance, laptops, and excuses. Now there was no padding left. 2 days later, my dad called. His voice was tight. Controlled. He has 30 days to find a job or get out, he said. No exceptions. We're done supporting someone unwilling to support themselves. My mom was in the background, quietly agreeing. The same parents who had toasted him at dinner as the self-made golden child had finally hit their limit. Jason didn't take it well. He screamed. He blamed my parents. He blamed me. He said, "None of this would have happened if Andrew had kept helping me." I didn't respond. I just listened. Because I knew what was coming next. He would run out of people to carry him. And when that happened, the world would finally teach him a lesson my family never did. Success isn't inherited, it's earned. And for the first time in his life, Jason was alone, broke, unemployed, and unwanted. The golden child had fallen. And the silence in their house, their carefully protected home for the pampered one, was louder than any applause they had ever given him. It was a quiet that finally felt like justice. I leaned back in my chair sipping my coffee. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I simply watched as the consequences they had refused to see for years played out exactly as they were supposed to. And I knew, deep down, there was no coming back. Jason's chapter of easy living had closed. And everyone around him, parents included, was finally forced to face reality. About a month after Jason quit and returned home, the atmosphere in my parents' house had completely changed. The same parents who once toasted his self-made success were exhausted, frustrated, and for the first time, fully aware of the truth. Jason was still living there, but the spark of entitlement had faded. The expensive hoodie collection remained, but his confidence had begun to crack under the weight of unpaid bills, no income, and the realization that no one else would fix his problems. My mom called me one evening. Her voice was tentative, careful, like she was testing the waters. "Andrew, we need to talk." I listened. She admitted they had been wrong. That they'd shielded Jason from responsibility for years. That they had ignored my contributions while praising him endlessly. She said my dad felt ashamed for letting things go on this long. That they were sorry. Really sorry. I didn't interrupt. I let them speak. I let them own it. Then they asked me to forgive them. I did, in words, calmly, carefully. But I made it clear that forgiveness didn't mean trust. It didn't mean I'd continue bailing them or Jason out. My wallet was closed. Permanently. I forgive you, I said. But this changes nothing else. You won't see another cent from me. You won't get excuses. You won't get me covering for Jason. That chapter is over. There was a pause on the line. Then my mom said softly, "We understand." And just like that, the dynamic shifted. The golden child had become just a child again, one without a plan, one without backup, one forced to confront reality in the house that had coddled him. Jason eventually had to face the consequences. Within weeks, he had to find a part-time job, cut back on spending, and adjust to life without automatic support. He was frustrated, angry, and resentful, yes, but he had no choice. My parents couldn't shield him anymore. Meanwhile, I continued my work, my projects, my life. I had no desire to punish anyone, but I also had no intention of being anyone's safety net ever again. The lesson had been taught, quietly but firmly, by consequences and boundaries. The family gatherings after that were different. There was no talk of Jason as the shining star. No one tried to manipulate me. My parents treated me with a cautious respect, the kind that comes when you finally realize someone has been carrying more weight than you ever noticed. I forgave them, yes. But nothing was the same. My financial generosity was gone. My willingness to cover mistakes was gone. And in the end, that was the only change Jason couldn't undo. He had to grow up the hard way. And I finally got to watch from the sidelines as reality did what praise and applause never could. Sometimes, silence and boundaries teach more than words ever could. And this time, everyone finally learned their lesson. Jason eventually adjusted, slowly, grudgingly, to the new reality. He got a small job, learned to budget, and realized that no one would swoop in to fix his mistakes. My parents, humbled and cautious, stopped treating him like a prodigy, and for the first time, saw the value in honesty and accountability. As for me, I kept my life moving forward, quietly proud that I had drawn the line. I wasn't the family's cash machine anymore, and the respect I had long deserved finally settled into place, quiet, permanent, and unshakable.